I always thought the Toads were a great unit for Nurgle, giving them some semblance of mobility, but they did get a cost reduction in the 1.2 update, making them an even more cost-effective option. Anti-infantry bonus and 50 weapon strength a pop makes them pretty decent. 7 bonus versus infantry, nothing too crazy, but 36 charge, also pretty decent. They, of course, having poison and cloud of flies. 50 armor, also all right. I'm up against Coops once again. I've got a Herald of Nurgle, and the Festering Stooge is about to be lit up by a Crane Gun and a Grand Cannon. Got some Furies here of Nurgle, going to be swooping and flying around, swinging, trying to draw these longbows out. I've also got Jade Warriors in the front line for Coops Cathay, some Celestial Dragon Crossbowmen, interesting choice, Peasant Long Spears, a couple of Jade Lancers, and yeah, some more Peasant Long Spears. Myself, Nurglings in the front line, have got double Cultist, and the 3 Exalted Plague Bears, of course, one of them being the Stooges, and the 3 Plague Toads, and the Herald. Of course, Cathay has enough of a missile presence. You definitely don't want to take Kugath. I've seen some people try, like, Kugath Double Soul Grinder for the triple heavy artillery piece here, which I don't know. I just think Cathay can take enough firepower, especially with the buff to Crane Guns, that it's not the best. But, man, look at that background. That is just an amazing shot right there. Nurglings rolling straight down the hill into the Jade Warriors. Going to wash up into these lines. The Stooges still just getting absolutely slapped by cannonballs and heavy shot. But the Furies are going to rush in here, try and shut down that range firepower. But the excellent Jade Lancers are quick to respond, get into a position. Nice, yeah, Stream of Corruption there. Does some good damage to the Celestial Dragon Crossbowman. I think, personally, I don't know that I necessarily love the Celestial Crossbowman here. I don't think you necessarily need the AP. I think it'd probably be better to go wider, like a bunch of Peasant Archers, just for the higher volume of fire. Considering Nurgle tends not to have that much armor, and you just need a high volume of damage rather than specific armor piercing. But still, these Crane Gunners are doing some great damage here. Keep in mind, I'm also keeping my Toads in the back line. I sort of highlighted them initially, but I'm definitely keeping them in tactical reserve. I 100% haven't forgot about them. Definitely didn't forget about them, totally. Cultists out on the flank here in an engagement with the Longbows, with the Jade Lancers, got some Peasants. These Nurglings are definitely in some trouble, so I'm going to summon some Plague Bears to help support them and to beat up this cavalry. The high weapon strength of the Plague Bears should get through, especially in these kind of weird surround situations that this summon will sort of lead to. And the tactical Toads have now been deployed and are rushing into the lines here to provide a little bit of a punch. One more summon here, too. These Plague Bearers trying to go after and shut down those Celestial Crossbowmen so as to keep my high-value units online that are still alive. These Exalted Plague Bearers did manage to use their Death's Heads, now moving into combat along with the Toads. Tactical Toad through the forest. Oop, almost got a Stream of Corruption there, but it looks like I got knocked down. So instead, we're going to get it right through those Peasants. Just does a huge amount of damage. Yeah, really good shot. Love that spell. Honestly, one of the best spells in the game, in my personal opinion. One of the best win spells, certainly. But Toads now sweeping the flanks. We're going to try and get them into this nice, juicy center of Coop's ranged units here. And try and just get on these... my mouse is now giving me some issues. Apologize. Get on these Crane Guns. It does take a while to get up and around. They're definitely not the fastest. I say mobility, and it is, you know, relative to Nurgle. They're not even cracking a full 60 speed here, but they finally do get through, get onto the the crossbows, cannons, whatnot. All the goodies here. Oh yeah, look at that guy. Definitely not having a good time. So one thing about the Toads animations too, and I pointed this out before in other videos, but just to reiterate, the fact that they kind of go kind of crazy in these little circles. They send guys, like you see how that guy just went for a ride right there. These guys are just going all over the place in terms of being tossed. So similar to the Plague Drones for Nurgle, if you have them near cliffs or, you know, spaces where you can fling models a significant vertical distance, it will one-shot them, right? So besides that, it's just great for disruption overall, and they can actually fight well against some infantry that you might consider, like, because of their stats, like, this isn't actually going to work, but then they do okay because of those interesting animations. Nice Blossom Wind there. Going to hit a few of my units. Does confer a momentary blinded effect. I mean, I say hit some of my units, actually hit some of his units too, but I don't think it actually blinds them. That blinded effect is okay. Definitely, it's more of an experimental take here. Coops would probably agree. You'd better to take the other lore of magic just for the fire, kind of wind spell, which did get nerfed, but is still pretty solid. And you also have Might of Heaven and Earth, which I think is pretty underrated here. It's a way to get fire damage in this matchup and get a huge damage spike, especially on like an Elite Halberd or another, Sentinel or something that does heavy damage or can at least hold its own in combat to begin with. And you just really over-juice that with whatever Might of Heaven and Earth, or, you also have Constellation of the Dragon, which is a really awesome kind of bombardment spell. But anyway, Toads do kind of start to run out of steam a little bit in this back line as they get counteracted. I'm going to do my best to just dump healing, and then we've been dumping plenty of Fleshy Abundances, of course. There's an Overcast Fleshy Abundance coming in right on cue. Hit all of these units, hits these Exalted Plague Bears, hits the Toads, hits the Nurglings, all these units getting just a huge, fat, juicy heal, 1.6% per second, which is just insane, especially for these higher HP units. And you can see a lot of the Cathay stuff has just kind of got ground down over time, although it looked really rough. And I admit, initially, I was kind of panicking because the Stooges just got absolutely blasted while basically doing nothing. A lot of my other units were taking damage. Didn't look great initially, but the Toads definitely came in as a great second wave, shutting down those elite missile units and then helping to mop up a lot of this infantry. Peasant long spears running for the hills. We've got some Jade Warriors coming back. Looks like Jade Lancers also coming back. So a little bit of a regroup here for another counter push by Cathay, but balance of power so far gone at this point. Another Locus of Fecundity too. Just massive overlapping heals. That is the one thing about the Herald that makes him so great in this matchup. Besides being a small target, he offers just that extra layer of healing. Besides your Fleshy Abundance and your Fecundity, the Locus of Fecundity, which is different than basic Fecundity, I guess. Yeah. It's all good stuff. A few more Death's Heads coming out as a final goodbye, Jade Warriors, and that will be game. So very well played to Coops. In terms of a build composition for him, like I said, I think we both would agree the other Lore of Magic would probably be better here, although the Ancestral Warrior Summon, I think, is pretty solid. Blossom Wind, it's great on domination maps where you have those objectives that have a lot of impassable terrain where you can bounce it multiple times in like a square. In maps where you don't have that option, where it's just going to fly off into space, unless you're playing a faction in the future that you can guarantee a very long straight line, even then it won't go full direct on the template, right? It's going to veer one side or the other kind of randomly regardless, just due to the nature of the way the spell works. So yeah, Blossom Wind, not that great, but the other Lore of Magic I think would have been okay here. And I mean, in theory, you can cast, yeah, just the other lore is definitely better. That being said, in terms of this build, it's pretty solid overall. The Longmas do pretty well here. I think, honestly, you could probably even go with more Jade Lancers, although they kind of got bogged down a little bit. And like I said, a little bit wider with the missile presence. But for myself, Toads did amazing. All of them paid back great value. Only one of them didn't pay for themselves, but they were quite healthy at the end, so again, the Tactical Toad Reserve definitely coming in very strong. Cultists of Nurgle, I almost feel like, and I hesitate to say this, almost feel like they should remove something from these guys. Just honestly, even if they were to increase their cost by a further 100 to 200 points, I mean, they'd have to really overcost these guys for them to not be worth it because of the Armor Sundering and the regeneration. On top of the summons, like there's just so much going on there that it's tough to really ever justify bringing the Plague Ridden, which is unfortunate. Their melee attack buff is pretty nice in some situations, but it's just if we're being real, it's almost always better to bring these guys. But the Herald also has a nice place in some matchups. Definitely you want to go with Kugath for the non-missile centric factions, but against Cathay, definitely go with the Herald. Exalted Plague Bearers also just kind of grinding through, getting some good value back. Nurglings surviving and doing many things, many cases thriving and paying for themselves, which is great. Rest here, yeah, Crane Guns paid for themselves, but in terms of tactical kind of usage, maybe arguably over-focusing the Stooges a little bit. They probably could have switched to the Toads at some point later on, even though they might seem like a lower value target in terms of raw gold value, which they are, definitely. Tactically, they're more threatening. I mean, I'd have to look at the speed, but I think the crane gunners might be able to actually kite plague bears, so there's that to consider as well. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.